Yeah, that easily went 400 yards. So you're wondering what it's like to work at a country club. You're in luck, because I have. In high school, I believe it was my sophomore and junior year, I worked at a country club for 2 years, and it was a pretty good experience. I would say, in terms of my job experiences, I've had a lot of jobs. This is probably going to be a continuing series of all the jobs that I've had. I would say it ranks mid to high tier. I worked for a country club in Oregon, and I'm wearing the shirt. Write that down, write that down! It's a little bit more snug than the last time I wore it. It's a large, I promise you. I'll start with the most interesting part of the job that most people want to know about, is the golf ball picker. The picker, as we called it, I think that's what most people call it, is the machine that drives on the driving range, and you sit in a tractor, and it's got these discs on front that are attached to baskets. They spin in a circular motion as you drive. You can't go too fast, but they're wider on the edges than they are in the middle. So when you run over a ball, they kind of bend out a little bit and then cave back in because they get sucked up into the middle. And then if you drive at the right speed, they get carried in the disc, and then there's a little prong that sticks out like this. There's like 20 of these in one basket. So when the ball goes around to the top, it hits the prong, and get pushed into a basket on the front. And at the club that I worked at, we had to drive it about twice a day. I'm sure at more popular places like, Top Golf, they have to drive it all the time. But we didn't have a ton of people driving all the time. Enough that we had to drive it twice a day. But it was kind of fun. Some of the people I worked with really hated it, but I was fine with it. You just listened to some music, you drove it for an hour, and you picked up all the balls. Everyone always asks didn't people try to hit you while you're driving in there? And it does happen every once in a while, but you've got walls around you, so it doesn't really matter. It's kind of loud, but it maybe happened once a day when you drove it, because people really can't aim that well. Especially if you're driving at a normal speed. Unless you're really close to them, it's not going to happen. The only part that became difficult was if it was really wet, the discs would dig into the ground and the groundskeeper people would get mad at you. But oh well. After we were done there, we had to collect all the balls. We'd pour them into these big buckets, put them on a back of a little go-kart thing. I don't know what they were called. Drive them over to the ball washer because they'd be covered in mud and stuff. And it's just this big trough thing. I couldn't find a picture of the one that we had, but this one's similar. You just dump it in the top, and it's just this spinning coil thing that has brushes all around it. It just douses those things with water, and they pop out, and you got clean balls again. The balls that we used on the driving range, and I'm sure this is how it works other places, weren't necessarily good golf balls. I don't personally golf, so I don't know. So there's no reason for people to keep them. That's what some people ask as well. They are really only good for practicing. You wouldn't want to play an actual game with them. So we dump them all back into the buckets, and then we'd take them back to the front of the driving range. People could take more. That's one part of the job that I had. There was 2 other things that we did. The other one that was kind of interesting is that since it was a country club and not just a golf course, you could store your bags there, or your bag with clubs. So you leave your clubs there. Everyone gets a cubby. Ours was kind of old. I think some people have a dry cleaning line where they circle around, but we just had cardboard cylinders that you just shoved people's bags into. Everyone's got a name too and a number. It was in the basement, so that's where we spent most of our time. And number 1 started here, and then it would wrap around this way, and then there were aisles, so it would go ascending order around here, and then up this aisle, down this aisle, up this aisle, down this aisle, and around again. It was not good. I don't know how it would have worked better, but it did not work well the way it was. And if you were to sign up for a tee time the next day, our job was put everybody's bags in order that they were going to be taken the next morning. Some people would take a push cart, some people would take a powered cart, and some people brought their own cart. So people that took push carts, we would put them on a push cart and line them up in this triangular section because they're kind of tripod shaped, and we'd line up 100 bags in this basement, so that the next morning you could take them from the front. So the first person out the next morning would be at the very top of the triangle, or of the V formation. That would take an hour. And then when people brought them back, we would have to clean the clubs with this brush, do that. And in theory, we were supposed to get tips for that, and that was, I think, kind of the rationale for why we got paid minimum wage. But that did not happen. It happened maybe twice in the entire time I worked there, which, oh well, I guess you don't have to. But for a place that, the entry fee was $20,000, which is ridiculous. I don't think Even if I had a lot of money, I don't think I want to pay $20,000 just to get into a club. Some people did it. It was mainly old people, not a lot of tips. Every once in a while, kind of the lame thing, sometimes they would tip you, but it'd be like 2 quarters. And I was like, I don't want 2 quarters. That's lame. And they'd be like, here you go. So that was kind of fun, I guess. You could get some change, throw them at people. That's mainly what we did, just threw them around. The third part of what we did is, at the end of the day, people would leave carts everywhere on the golf course. So we had a whole 18 holes. People would leave the push carts and the golf carts, the ones that like you drive, everywhere, just like spread out throughout the course. And our job was to go find them at the end of the day. And so we would have to go through holes 1 through 18. And usually we do it in pairs. We would take, one person would drive one of our carts and the other person would sit in the passenger seat, and we would first find all of the push carts that had been left. And sometimes it got a little risky because you could stack them in a particular way to where that, because they're like a tripod shape. So if you had one tripod, there's 2 wheels in the back, 1 in the front, and you could lean out the front of the cart while someone else is driving, and push it down a little bit so the front wheel is off the ground. And then if you came up to another one, you'd really quick, you would grab the new one, hold this one, grab the new one, flip it on top of the other one, and then hold them both. And you could stack. Sometimes we could stack like 4 or 5 of them at a time. And we'd be going, they only went like maybe 15 miles an hour, but we'd be going pretty fast, holding like 5 or 6 carts, just going through the grass. And every once in a while we would lose them, and then we have to start all the way over, but it was pretty fun. Sometimes you could even get 2 sets going. The driver could have one, and he would hold like 5 or 6 like this and drive with the other hand, and then the passenger would be holding a couple too. It was pretty fun. I'm surprised we didn't crash more often. The only regret I have is that they didn't go very fast, and that was the main thing, is you wanted to go as fast as you can. After we were done with that, we'd have to bring them all in, kind of hose them off if they were dirty, and then we'd have to go find the actual golf carts that had been left behind. So we have to go find those. That one is harder because you can't drive more than 1 golf cart at a time, as much as I would have liked. So we would go in pairs again. 2 people would drive, or 2 people would hop in, go find one, they'd hop off, we'd both take them back, kind of like this ferry-like thing. And the golf carts themselves, the powered ones, we would have to clean because they'd get mud tracked up on the wheels and like on the back. So we'd have to wash those off, clean them, and in theory dry them. But we didn't try many carts. Sometimes our boss would get annoyed because we would also park these in like a basement hangar. And if he saw a ton of water down there, he knew we weren't drying them. He's like, hey, you gotta dry them. And we'd be like, okay. And then we would continue to not dry them because that was dumb. It was a pretty good job. I met some good people there. One time I almost met Stephen Curry because he was gonna golf there, and then he didn't. And then someone else from his team came. I don't know if it was Andre Iguodala or someone else. Someone from his team came, but I'm not into basketball enough to know who it was. But it was a good time. It was a good job for being in high school. Bummer was it was minimum wage, and it actually did take some skill, in my opinion, to do. But I would say the highlight of working there was on lunch. We could order from the kitchen, and I would get a grilled turkey and cheese every day, and it was just the greasiest thing ever. And it came with fries, and it would just make my stomach hurt so bad. But I got it every single time, and I only had to pay like $2 for it because I got a discount. So I would rank this job, I'm putting it at a 7 out of 10. It wasn't too hard. Sometimes I got kind of hot because I worked there in the summer. Didn't pay a whole lot, but I got a good lunch. There's 4 things. And I got to drive around golf carts all day, and who doesn't want to do that? Thank you for watching another Job Talk. I hope to see you in the next one.